We are live. All right, welcome everyone to the January 23rd, 2023 Bold District 2534 School Board meeting. So we'll start out with the district's mission statement. The mission of the Bold School District is to provide all learners in the Bold community an education designed to develop the creativity, character, confidence, and skills essential to flourish in a changing global society. And with that, we'll call the meeting to order and then do the Pledge of Allegiance. So the meeting's called to order at 7 o'clock p.m. And we'll please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion.
So moved by Member Buckle and seconded by Member Benson, correct?
Yep.
Is there any discussion about approval of the agenda?
I would like to add approval of the,
Fundraiser,
thank you, the fundraiser for the FFA.
so that would go item F under new business.
Yep.
So the item is under new business, approval of greenhouse, oh, I'm sorry. F was on the other side. We will call it, it's item H.
Oh, did you already? Okay.
So the item H, approval of greenhouse fundraiser for the ag program. Any other changes or additions? Okay, hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries to approve the agenda with added item H under new business. Okay, on to the next item. That's the statement by the chair regarding the January 9th, 2023 closed meeting. So the board recessed for a closed meeting, and part of the open meeting law says we have to come back into at the next open meeting and give a statement in regards to the closed meeting. So all members of the board were present at that meeting, including Mr. Benton and Amy Schmidt, and the discussion was around strategies on negotiations for the, and I'm going to forget the contract name, the AFSCME contract. And we came back, closed at, I believe, at after 23 minutes of meeting time, approximately.
And I'd specified maybe, I don't know, the AFSCME contract was the contract for the administrative assistants, food service, and paraprofessionals.
Yes.
We've got two AFSCME contracts, so.
Correct.
There you
Yeah, that meeting. So that's the statement regarding that. Recognition of visitors to the board meeting. So we have 3 visitors here this evening. Thank you for coming and being with us. I suspect we also have some visitors online viewing, so thank you as well for being part of the meeting. We're going to enter the public forum. So this is placed on the agenda to allow the district constituents to address the school board. Is there anyone wishing tonight to address the school board? We have no one here willing to address the school board, or not willing, no one wanting to address it this evening. So we're done with the public forum section, and we'll move on to consent items. So we need one motion to approve our consent items of approving our bills for payment and approving the December 19th, 2022 regular meeting minutes, as well as the January 9th, 2023 reorganization meeting. Is there a motion to approve? Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Johnson seconded the motion. Is there anything to Any discussion or adds or changes on the consent? Okay, if not, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion for the consent items passes. Okay, on to personnel. So we have one item under personnel tonight. That would be approving Braden Cedarstrom as the junior high track coach for the 2022-2023 school year. Is there a motion to do such?
So move Benson.
Second vote.
Okay. It's been moved by member Benson and seconded by member Buchtel to approve Braden Cedarstrom as the junior high track coach for the 2022-2023 school year. Any discussion around the motion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor? Oh, wait, I think we have to do a roll call vote on a action for a personnel. So, member Benson?
Aye.
Member Jacobs?
Aye.
Member Sheehan?
Aye.
Member Johnson?
Aye.
Member Buchtel?
Aye.
Okay, and I as well am an aye. I have to vote on that as well. So the motion carries unanimously. Okay, on to reports. Jim, what do you have for us as superintendent report this evening?
All right, well, we've got legislature is about 3 weeks in. There's a lot of education stuff going on. The governor's hoping to pump some money into the formula for funding education. And one of the things I'm really looking at is, and hopeful for, is the cross subsidies for special education. And they're proposing to fund half of them. And that would be an extra $150,000 for us right there. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to see what happens here. He's also looking for a 4% raise to the formula in the first year and a 2% in the second year. So that could have a lot of benefit for us. During our committee meeting, Sharon had mentioned that in neighboring state that it sounds like the state doesn't fund nearly as much as Minnesota does. But I love the fact that Minnesota does do that, simply because that puts a lot of pressure on local people like us, well, exactly like us. And so I'm hoping that can move forward. We've got our task force is getting put together. Our first meeting is going to be on February 1st. That's going to be here in Olivia. Our second meeting is on February 15th, and that will be in Bird Island. Both of those meetings will start at 5 o'clock. You're all welcome to attend. And the whole purpose for this task force is to see what our needs are, listen to the community, take a look at the results of the survey when that gets done, and then report back to us, report back to the Building and Grounds Committee, so that committee can then make a solid recommendation as to how they feel we should move forward. The community tours, we had a little bit of a glitch, and it got mailed out, and there were a lot of us at the meeting. I'll take full blame for it. There were a lot of us at the meeting that scheduled the first community tour here in Olivia for February 12th, but that's the Super Bowl. And so we're looking at we're gonna reschedule that date. We've taken a look. It's going to probably most likely be first or second week in March, but it's not formalized yet. We'll send something else out to let people know, but we just decided that it would be pointless to schedule it during the Super Bowl. Most people are not going to be there, so I apologize for that. Let's see. In the survey questions were given to the Building and Grounds Committee. Or Facilities Committee. They've been taking a look at that and providing some feedback, and hopefully we'll have that wrapped up pretty quick here. Then they'll send those out so that we can all take a look at them. The survey hopefully will be completed by the beginning of March. So that's our plan right now. Any questions?
So when was that, facility meeting to go over the survey?
We haven't planned that one yet because we don't know exactly when the results are gonna be back. But,
But to go over the questions, when was that one?
she emailed that out. We've been emailing.
Oh, just emailing,
Yeah.
yeah.
Did you not get those?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I got it, I thought
Alright.
we were gonna meet in person. I didn't know we were just
Oh.
gonna email.
How's the response on the task force?
Good. I think I'm at about 20 people that have responded. So, no, board, you don't have to respond. You're welcome to show up, but,
I think they
I
liked,
plan on it.
I think they pretty much liked their question except one they thought was
yeah,
related.
yeah, we're not really sure why they wanted, the question that has been contested is, near the end of the survey, they ask if, like, political affiliation.
It's the very last question on the
Was it the
survey.
very last question? And, you know, I thought that was weird too. I think you mentioned, you thought, or somebody mentioned to me, they thought that was weird. All I'm gonna say is, when this goes back to the Morris Leatherman group, they may have a really important reason why they wanna ask that. If they don't, we'll just get rid of it. If there is a really big reason why that's on there, we'll explain it to the group, but I was confused by that as well. And they didn't have libertarian on there. So, any other questions? All right, thank you.
Let's move on to item B under reports, the K-12 principal report. Correct?
So I handed out this document before it started. We have Mrs. Redmond, who's our ELL teacher, English language learner teacher. And we had first graders developing a story, going through the plot and all that. And then Teresa has the book that they made together. So that'll be passed around. I did make 10 copies. If you'd love a copy, I'll make a copy for you. But that's part of our English language learners as first graders. So it was really cool to see the progress of what they can do. January 16th, we had the North Collaborative In-Service Day where we went up to McRae with 5 or 6 different schools together. Great day of learning. It's always fun after COVID to get together and talk about ideas and see how everybody else is doing things. It's crazy to think we just finished the second quarter of the first semester. We had a crazy start to the year with snow days and the end of the quarter into the semester. On January 20th, we had another professional development day. We had a couple come in and talk about, I'm blanking on it right now. Our interventionist. So we're moving on that. We've had some applications for that, which is good. So now it's just making sure everything's in place before we do the interviews and go from there. So that is a progress point there. We are working with our K4 is doing our title testing or our FAST testing. That's done 3 times a year. It's to get into more of our group work for struggling students. Working definitely in the areas of reading. We know that's important right now, just as is. Homework help. That's something we're in the process of getting back going. Hopefully it's up here in about 2 weeks, once we get everything going. And we're looking at, so if you come into our building at any point, you're gonna see kids working in the hallways. That's how schools work. Instead of having kids sitting on the floor, we're looking at getting some flex seating so they can sit on, little comfier chairs, paras as well. I love to get on the floor. Sometimes it's harder to get back up. So just the chairs. So that's something we're looking at as well. And we're in that process. questions?
It's too bad that bean bags are so bulky, because
Yeah.
it'd be fun to let them veg out on those or sit on
Yep.
those, because they could still squirm,
Yeah.
but be comfy at the same time,
Yep.
because they say kids like to wiggle.
Yes, that is true. That is true.
I have a couple questions.
Yep.
I was looking up interventionists too,
Yep.
a little bit, and it says like, for the middle to high school students,
Yep.
an interventionist is designed to motivate students to succeed academically and give struggling students much needed assistance, which I think we all pretty much know that. They also mentioned something too, that, with the interventionist, you could call it 8th hour or Saturday school. You could do that too, like 8th hour would be after school, obviously, and then Saturday school would, for two primary group of students. One would be students below grade level in reading and or math, like you explained. And two, those students who often fail to complete or turn in their work. It was suggested that they be part of that also.
Bold used to have a Saturday school.
Really?
Yeah, back 30-some years ago. I just happened on it. I was,
Really?
yeah.
Yeah, cool. And it said.
I'm not saying it's a great idea. I've watched The Breakfast Club enough to.
But if we need it, and to help them get academically up there, but it's not to be intended for as student discipline, but as academic aid to success.
Correct.
So I just wanted to bring that to the board too, what I looked into a teeny bit. And I just have one question for you too also. When was the last time our curriculum was updated? And when was the last time we reviewed the curriculum?
When you're talking about curriculum as in the whole curriculum or per subject?
Probably, well, I'm not sure, I'm new at this board thing too, so, as far as boards, can we see it per subject, or has the staff done that and then brought that to the board, so you can kind of see where like, do we want to change up something in a certain area, if it's kind of like lagging and getting boring or whatever, or not as challenging? When has
So-
that been reviewed or updated?
So about 4 or 5 years ago, we did what is called curriculum mapping. So we look at our standards and we develop basically how we're gonna teach that throughout the year. Teachers rely on that all the time. How did I hit this subject, or how did I hit this standard? As in new curriculum where I go and get a new textbook, with COVID, we've kind of laxed on getting new, but it's something that we've always looked at, and we're actually in the process of looking at getting or helping our ELA curriculum, English Language Arts curriculum, and we've got, we're looking at some of our ELL curriculum and some of our fine arts curriculum right now that we can use with some of our ESSER money as well.
Because I was just wondering if it's a little stagnant, maybe if there's something new and fun out there that would get the kids motivated in another way, shape, or form than the standard what they've been doing the last few years. Maybe it's just a suggestion. I was looking at a few other things and going over some of the stuff that I picked up last weekend. These are some things that were stated: student performance and progress monitoring across learning environments, if we're doing that or not.
Yep.
Next grade readiness assessments, and to assess them throughout the year to see if they're ready for that next grade. Student level identification of those falling behind for intervention planning.
I would say we have more supports in place for our K4 than we do 5-12. And that's really any school district right now. There's just, for some reason, that K4, K5, or K6, however you classify your elementary, there's just more supports in place for them. But this interventionist, 5-9, would definitely be a support in that area as well.
Okay. Accelerated learning strategies also.
That's a new term to me,
Okay.
but I can definitely do some research on it.
Okay. And let's see, just a couple more.
Yep.
So they talked about interim assessments, test designed to measure academic growth, and is done several times a year. It says students lost critical instructional time and learning opportunities through COVID. It's most about the instructional time. They felt they lost more than their skills.
I wonder if that's more of a formative assessment where the teachers are doing it daily, or we call them exit out the door ticket. I mean, there's a bunch of different terms that we use, or if it's more of a, like we're doing with the elementary, the FAST test. So it'd be interesting to talk to wherever you got that from, to see what they're comparing that to.
Okay, sure. And then one was state assessments designed to see the degree to which students meet grade level standards. And it says, make a clear, distinct purpose of these different sets of data. So the interim assessments and the state assessments are like two different things. This was like an email that came out to me from a past board member. I can show you that email. And I'll just forward
Is
it
it
to
talking
you.
about the MCA's?
Yeah,
I don't remember her saying that, but it was a
that
specific,
would be the state testing that we do,
yeah.
but definitely, yeah,
So,
please
anyway,
forward it to me. I
okay,
know I go to the high school principals conference here, Wednesday through Friday, so I'm excited to see and talk to the different principals and see what's going on there too, so,
okay, I'll send that to you.
yeah, perfect. Anything else?
I think we're good. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda would be the activities report. That enclosure number 2 is in your board packet. Any questions around the enclosure? Okay. Then we'll move on to school board committee reports. I assume we'd have at least a report on the finance committee, as the committee just met prior to the meeting tonight, and have there been any other committee meetings?
Just that. Does somebody want to sum up what we talked about? Nobody was ready for this.
Well, no, Sharon was basically saying that she's gonna just provide more information more often, and so that we can make those decisions based on budgets and stuff like that throughout the year. Give a little more leeway before the decisions have to be made.
Actually, she kind of mapped out kind of a timeline.
Yeah.
You know, which is helpful.
Yep, and again, my goal is to have that ready for you to see at the May meeting. You know, if there are no questions, we could approve it in May, but at least that gives us a full month to be able to without being rushed, to
Yeah.
fix things, so.
I think we're ready to move on to item E under reports, the pool report. That would be enclosure number 3 in your board packet. So if any questions, Tracy's contact information and phone are there. Anything around the pool report by any board member?
I just think it's really neat that Mrs. Yankee's getting feedback from the kids that are excited to swim and continue to ask for more. I think that's fun for them, plus it's a life-saving skill, which is really cool.
Okay. Item F under reports, the Minnesota School Board Association Conference Review. So this would be an opportunity for each member who went to the conference to give the community an update on what you maybe picked up, learned, and what you got out of the conference to help the community.
Any highlights?
I thought the speaker on day 1 was amazing. I thought one of the best I've seen there. And then, yeah, the workshops I think are always good information. Ally and I both went to one that Sherry Berderius had from McCray about just some tips on, you know, passing a bond referendum. And that was really interesting too.
Well, I went to quite a few, a couple round tables on Thursday, a couple on Friday. Then I went to a couple workshops the one workshop on Thursday, and then I went to one on Friday that I was so excited about after I left, and I texted Mr. Benson, and I said, do we do this? Or I know we used to. Now you probably know, we used to have where the older kids would kind of go down and read with the younger ones and work with them. Do you remember that? Or weren't you here then?
Yeah, but we started that when we brought the elementary up.
Yeah, well, they did it, they've been doing it in Pillager, and they went through the whole thing, and it was so amazing to see. And the one dad had said, I can never get our son to get up and go to school. He hates school, never wanted to go until he became a mentor. Now he doesn't even want to go on vacation with us because he's afraid his mentee needs him.
Aww.
You know, it was so, I mean, I still get goosebumps when I hear that. Because he said it's amazing how some of these kids that don't want to ever come to school or go to school have the drive now to want to be there and be there for their mentor or mentee. And the mentees looked up to him, and when they have like a Christmas program or whatever, they put all the mentors in a special spot in front of the mentees that are singing, and they're all waving at them, and it was just kind of a really neat seminar to go into, because I visited with their superintendent afterwards for quite a while, and he said, he was just, I could go on, but he was just telling me stories, how amazing it works with kids, and their reading and writing has just went up.
Good for both age
So,
groups, the
yeah.
older ones and the younger ones.
Yeah, because the little ones get excited because they want to be there for the older ones, and they want to do good for them, and the older ones want to come down because they want to help them, they want to be there for them. So, yeah,
I had the opportunity to be there Tuesday night, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday. And I just learned so much. I got to meet so many neat people. I learned so many things where I like came home and Andy was like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Oh, my brain is just so full." Like it was great. I learned so much about the like regulations and the laws and like, you know, like the running of the board and like our role as board members and how serious we need to take it. And I'm just looking forward to working with you guys and being a great team and showing up for our community. And I think that's important. And I just, that weighed heavily on me all weekend because I'm like, you know, we're elected, and I just being obviously new to this, you know, it's like we got to do good by the people that elected us, and I'm excited to work with you all. So thank you.
Teresa, did you want to share first?
Yeah, I'll try to keep mine short, but I have so many cool ones too. There was this one school that it was St. Francis, and the school board chairman, his name is Mike Starr, and what they're doing there, it was so cool with the kids, is that they picked up a contract from the state of Minnesota for snowplows, and it had been at the penitentiary. They used it for a while, where they would make these spare parts for snowplows. Well, the penitentiary closed because of some stuff that happened there, and so the school district picked up that contract. And this contract, they get between $75,000 to $100,000 a year, and it goes back to their classrooms to pay for these. They make large pipe springs, these pulleys. They make the little insert for them. The kids are just doing phenomenal, and that class basically is funded by itself with this contract. It helps pay for even some long-term replacement costs. So it kind of reminded me of what we're doing, like with Rob Vanderhagen.
Is that Pillager? No, St. Francis.
St.
St.
Francis.
St. Francis.
Independent School District, yes.
and that was fun. That was certainly.
And then it was just like another career and tech ed type thing. They have like, there's some other ones I looked at with science and food chemistry. The arts weren't just like for landscaping or floral design. You could do arts and welding also. That's what these guys are doing. There's grants out there for that, which I can share that information. Another thing that I looked into or visited with some gals on was the child nutrition labs. And that was really cool because they train with the kitchen and cafeteria staff to act as food coaches. So they get to help plan menus. They have a garden. They don't supply all the food for their school district, but the kids have this garden. They'll take some of like the vegetables from that, and they'll make like sauces and stuff along with the kitchen staff, and they'll freeze them and keep that for in the wintertime. And so when the kids are going through the lunch program, they can say, "Hey, I actually got to help make this. We got to help with the staff come up with the menus." That was kind of fun. Let's see, there's another one called Capturing Kids' Hearts. It's training for faculty and administration. I have a brochure on there too. It's about leadership, professionals in business, skills for students. That was kind of cool. There's another one I was in on. It's called FAPE, Free Appropriate Public Ed. There's grants for that too. Mental health therapists. Another one was managing students' behaviors. They were talking about like in some school districts with behaviors, they'll do like a room clear. Well, they'll get all the learning students out of the room and just keep the child with the behavior in the room. And they said no one learns from that. It affects all students and no one benefits from that at all. And so they said instead of focusing so much on the behaviors, they felt that you should take the student and get to the why. Why? Because he said a lot of these kids are in the fight and flight mode when they come to school. There's trauma at home. They have sensory problems, motor challenges, disabilities. And it was just, I've got information on that too. I'm just like, there's just so much here. And it was so cool too how you can do ag to school stuff. Like they're talking about the greenhouse for FFA. Well, that was so cool too, because they have these little ag magazines, that you can get for kids K1 through, I think, goes to 6th grade. And it talks about just lots of fun things about agriculture that the kids can learn about. They talked about greenhouses, letting kids do some of the gardening, and saying these are a few tomatoes from, like if they do a salad at school, we grew these tomatoes on our school property and whatever. Like I said, I could go on too, but those are kind of my highlights.
And then for myself, it was a great opportunity to network with school board members from across the state, learn what struggles they're going through, what wins they're having as well. I sat in on several financial seminars and talks. Jim and I happened to sit in together on a superintendent board relations session. And so it was very informative for me. Made some connections as a member on the Ag Advisory Committee on some resources potentially that we could pursue for the district, as well as some contacts of individuals that can help out with some things. I also had the opportunity to meet some of the other superintendents across the state and, just like I said, networking, just get to know some people that are in a similar mission as us across the state. So that was where I spent my time.
I might add that networking is super important. Going to these conferences like that, to get a lot of that done. I thought we had a great get together ourselves when we had dinner. I really enjoyed that. I thought there was a lot of really good conversation. I think it's important to get to know each other. We don't have to hang out, but I think knowing who we are is important. And like Sandy, you had suggested doing a retreat, going to like Topgolf or something like that. Didn't you bring that up?
Yeah, just something where we had some camaraderie together or something.
It might not have to be that elaborate.
Yeah.
I know some of us are afraid of looking like bad golfers. And other people.
I'm not.
It really doesn't matter when you do that.
Yeah, but I thought, I really appreciated that dinner. I thought that was
It was enjoyable.
It was good. and I was very full.
Yeah, having a retreat with everybody, I think, gets you to a different level where you understand where they're coming from and who they are. When you never have that opportunity to just sit down and visit like we did, you don't know who they are, and you're not probably ever going to know who they are either. But you get some kind of an idea anyway.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
All right, we ready to move on to new business?
Let's do it.
All right, so the first item under new business is A, our second reading of policy 798, the donations for the negative student food service account. That would be enclosure number 4 in the packet. With the second reading, would there be any potential edits or changes to the policy? None? Okay, so this will be brought next month to the meeting, and it will be a vote then occurring on our policy 798, so everyone's aware of that.
Okay, I do have one question.
Okay,
So if we get funded, because Governor Walz had mentioned something about that too, about funding the lunch programs at school being fully funded. If that does come into fruition and there's money sitting in here then, if people make donations, but now it's gonna be fully funded, what do we do with those funds?
That's an excellent question. You could leave it in there and use it for one thing that we get a lot of kids will eat to have like a second entree, but a lot of kids if you're on free and reduced lunch, you can't, unless you have the money for that, you can't do that. So that might be something that we could look at. Especially, there's the older those kids get, the more food some of them need. And that might be something to look at, but that's a good question.
Okay, any other item to bring up? Okay, then let's move on to item B, which is to discuss how to handle emergency days. Jim, you want to lead us? in
Yeah,
that
sure.
discussion?
I sent you guys an email a couple weeks ago, and I'm not looking to make a decision here today, but it's something that we need to consider. We intentionally didn't take an e-learning day on the day before Christmas break, and simply because the second half of the day was all just student activities. It was not academic work. It was, bonding work. And so, I don't know what you'd want to do with that day. If you want to, but moving forward, we definitely have to have a plan of what we're going to do. And so I'm not saying we need to decide with what we're going to do with that December day yet. I suggest we wait and see what winter keeps bringing. Because if we're talking about what we're going to do with one day, that might look very different than what we're going to do if we're looking at 5 to 10 days. So we do have, the state requires 165 days of school. They also require, and I might get these numbers wrong, in the elementary, it's something like 960 hours. And then at the 712, they require 1,020 hours of classroom instruction. So as long as we don't go below that, and as long as we have at least 165 days, then it's really up to you how we want to do that. We can have kids and teachers come back for extra days. We could take away a day around Easter break. We could extend the school day so that we go to class longer. I believe we did that years ago.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that was before I was here, but yeah. So we could add days in June. And again, we might have kids come back. We might just ask the teachers to come back and because they're contracted for each of those days. Those are all things that I think we just want to be thinking about how we want to handle it.
Could you repeat the K through 6 hours and the 7 to 12 hours again?
Yep, so 935,
9:35.
I think I said, right?
Yep.
Yeah. 935. I focus on the high school hours because they tend to have the same number of hours because they're in the same building so the high school is 1,020 hours. So as long as we have 1,020 hours and at least 165 days, the school funds us, or the state funds us.
Okay.
But we've had our 5 e-learning days. We can't have any more unless the state changes something. And, even if they did change it, I don't know that we want to do that anymore. It's not great learning. Yeah, and we talked about the problems with trying to do iPads. It seems like an easy thing to do until you start really looking at all the logistics of it. The way a teacher plans for a lesson is very different when it's online like that than when it's in a classroom. You've got half the school doesn't bring their iPads home. So we'd have to somehow predict that they're going to maybe need their iPads, and that's just.
And it's hard on families.
It's really hard on families. We found that during COVID that a lot of families didn't have the bandwidth in their house to have all of this happening.
And you have some parents that are totally on board and some parents
Oh,
are
yeah.
hands off. And
Yeah.
so it's like,
Yeah, and it's in my bucket list to never ever have to do distance learning again. So.
We're ready to move on to item C, which would be the first reading of policy 209, Code of Ethics. That's your enclosure number 5. So this I will actually read through because at the February meeting, we're going to be voting to approve. So if you have changes or edits that you want to the policy, we'll need to get those in place for this next meeting to vote. So this policy was adopted on the 4th or April 27th of 2015. So that was the last time it was reviewed. And the purpose of it is, the policy is to assist the individual school board member in understanding his or her role as part of a school board and in recognizing the contribution that each member must make to develop an effective and responsible school board. Area 2, the general statement of policy. Under Area 2, each school board member shall follow the code of ethics stated in this policy. A, as a member of the school board, I will, 1, attend school board meetings, including committee meetings, and that's the one edit change, is adding including committee meetings. 2, come to the meetings prepared for discussion of the agenda items. 3, listen to the opinions and views of others, including but not limited to other school board members, administration, staff, students, and community members. Number 4, vote my conscience after informed discussion unless I abstain because of a conflict of interest exists. Number 5, support the decision of the school board, even if my position concerning the issue is different. 6, recognize the integrity of my predecessors and associates and appreciate their work. Number 7, be primarily motivated by a desire to provide the best possible education for the students of my school district. Number 8, inform myself about the proper duties and functions of a school board member. Letter B under the general statement policy. In performing the proper functions of a school board member, I will, 1, focus on education policy as much as possible. 2, remember my responsibility is to set policy, not to implement policy. 3, consider myself a trustee of public education and to do my best to protect, conserve, and advance its progress. Number 4, recognize that my responsibility, exercised through the actions of the school board as a whole, is to see that the schools are properly run, not to run them myself. Number 5, work through the superintendent, not over or around the superintendent. Number 6, delegate the implementation of school board decisions to the superintendent. Part C, to maintain relations with other members of the school board, I will, 1, respect the rights of others to have and express opinions. 2, recognize that authority rests with the school board in legal session, not with the individual members of the school board, except as authorized by law. Number 3, make no disparaging remarks in or out of school board meetings about other members of the school board or their opinions. 4, keep an open mind about how I will vote on any proposition until the board has met and fully discussed the issue. Number 5, make decisions by voting in school board meetings after all sides of debatable questions have been presented. Number 6, insist that committees be appointed to serve only in an advisory capacity to the school board. Part D, in meeting my responsibilities to my community, I will, 1, attempt to appraise and plan for both the present and future educational needs of the school district and community. Number 2, attempt to obtain adequate financial support for the school district's programs. Number 3, insist that business transactions of the school district be ethical and open. Number 4, strive to uphold my responsibilities and accountability to the taxpayers in my school district. Section E, in working with the superintendent of schools and staff, I will, 1, hold the superintendent responsible for the administration of the school district. 2, give the superintendent authority to commensurate with his or her responsibilities. Number 3, assure that the school district will be administered by the best professional personnel available. Number 4, consider the recommendation of the superintendent in hiring all employees. 5, participate in school board action after considering the recommendation of the superintendent and only after the superintendent has furnished adequate information regarding the recommendation. And that's the second change, going from supporting to regarding. So that just changes it to a neutral position. Item number 6, insist the superintendent keep the school board adequately informed at all times. 7, offer the superintendent counsel and advice. 8, recognize the status of the superintendent as the chief executive officer and a non-voting ex officio member of the school board. Number 9, refer all complaints to the proper administrative officer or insist that they be presented in writing to the whole school board for proper referral according to the chain of command. Number 10, present any personal criticisms of employees to the superintendent. Number 11, provide support for the superintendent and employees of the school district so they may perform their proper functions on a professional level. So section F, in fulfilling my legal obligations as a school board member, I will, 1, comply with all federal, state, and local laws relating to my work as a school board member. 2, comply with all school district policies as adopted by the school board. 3, abide by all rules and regulations as promulgated by the Minnesota Department of Education and other state and federal agencies with jurisdiction over school districts. Number 4, recognize that the school district business may be legally transacted only in an open meeting of the school board. 5, avoid conflicts of interest and refrain from using my school board position for personal gain. 6, take no private action that will compromise the school board or administration. And 7, guard the confidentiality of all information that is protected under applicable law. And so then we have legal references to Minnesota statute 123B.02 subdivision 1, which is general powers of independent school districts. Second, the Minnesota statute 123B.09, which is the boards of independent school districts statute. And then third one would be 123B.143 subdivision 1, which lists superintendent duties. And then a cross-reference to the Minnesota School Board Association Service Manual, Chapter 1, the School Board Member Code of Ethics. So this was recommended as a new board that we look through this policy and update it on an annual basis.
Phase 1 and 2 of the Minnesota School Board
Mhm.
Convention. What y'all missed out on.
So that's why this is brought forward. So, okay. Then we're ready to move on to item D, which would be the first reading of policy 203.2 agenda. That's enclosure number 6. So this would was last updated in April 22nd of 2002 was when it was last adopted. So this has been modified for use by ISD 2534 from a MSBA general policy recommendation. So the 203.2 agenda would be, again, this is some minor changes, so we would be voting on this at the next meeting to look at potential edits we want to make to this. So the policy reads, the superintendent in consultation with the chairperson of the board shall prepare the agenda for each board meeting. Whenever a matter involving policy consideration is placed on the agenda, the superintendent shall advise the board of any policies previously adopted affecting such matters. Items of business may be suggested by board members, administration, or district residents of the district for inclusion on the agenda. And you refer to the MSBA Model Policy 206 for clarification on public participation. After acceptance of the agenda, items of business may not be suggested from the floor for discussion and/or action at the same meeting except at the discretion of the chairperson or the majority of board members present. So the order would be 1, call to order and roll call. 2, recite Pledge of Allegiance. 3, approval of agenda. 4, recognition of visitors to the board meeting. 5 is the public forum. And if you look down below, the public forum would be changed to read, will be placed on the agenda for regular board meetings. During this part of each regular school board meeting, time will be allowed for district constituents to address the school board. This is a time of listening by the school board. Then item 6 would be our consent items. 7 would be our reports, starting with superintendent's report, B, principal's report, C, school board's report, Then 8 would be our unfinished business, 9 would be our new business, and then 10 would be to adjourn. And then our cross-reference policy 206, the public participation in school board meetings, complaints and data privacy considerations. So this formally puts the Pledge of Allegiance onto the agenda.
I do have a question, under the public forum,
Yes.
and when it says it's a time of listening by the board, I get that, and then at the same time, sometimes there's questions being asked of us. I'm wondering, when do we do a follow-up to those questions? When do we meet as a board to discuss some of the things the public brings to us, so we can answer that at the next school board meeting instead of there's never a follow-up on it?
So that would
We
be,
follow up on questions. We follow up on most questions that come out. It's just, the concern here is that if you are being put on the spot, and this is why I always ask people, bring us your questions ahead of time. That way, if you're asking me, I can find those answers out. You can still ask the questions. It's the same thing. If the public is coming in and demanding an answer now, we might not have the right answer right now. And that's why boards do this.
Could we answer it at the next board meeting? 'Cause
Yes.
If one
We
person
can
has
do
a
that.
question, maybe more people will.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
you also have ability to talk with the individuals after the meeting if they haven't brought it to you before the meeting.
I did that with you a couple of times, yeah.
Correct.
So
Yeah,
I always try to answer them.
that's all I'm asking, is
Yeah.
that there'll be a follow-up, so they know the answer to their question the next time we meet.
Yep. And then I know there was, by Jim, he asked, well, with not having time restraints in, if you look under policy 206, and I don't know if all of you have read it, but that leaves it up to the policy 206 addresses public input in a meeting, and the chair has ability to, under the interest of the public, to keep the meeting moving along. So it's not to cut people off, but to respect the community by us being able to conduct our business as a board, but two, that the community needs to respect the board and adhere to the board keeping control over the meeting room and moving things along as it should.
The school board meeting is a board meeting that happens in public. It's not a public meeting. It's a meeting that happens in public. And we do by law need to offer this time for people to talk to us. But think about it on the state level with our elected officials there. We contact them ahead of time, and I know people talk to you ahead of time, and that's where we need to be hearing that information. It's not right before we vote for something. I contacted Deb Henton. She's the leader, chair, president, I guess, of my organization, the MASA. And in fact, she was one of the two people leading the session that Todd and I went to concurrently. And she talked about, oh my goodness, I just had drew a mind blank here. The importance of having, I just derailed my train. It just went away. I forget what I was responding to.
You need some caffeine?
I probably do. Wow.
It's okay.
Had something, keep the meeting.
Oh, it's,
In
yeah,
order.
exactly. To keep that meeting going. And she talked about her experience as a superintendent where they were planning on getting rid of German. No longer teaching German. This was up in wherever she was. And she had said that the German teacher had talked to all of her students and had each one of her students come to the board meeting, and there were students or parents, and they each stood up and talked for however long they wanted to the board, and it was hours. And so that's where she was really emphasizing that the board chair needs to have that power to say, okay, and that's part of the board chair's task, is to make sure that there's both sides of an opinion being spoken. And So I guess what I would recommend is then when we read this, the public forum is maybe have something in there just so that it's not a surprise. If somebody's been talking for 15 minutes and the board chair says, well, we need to get our board business meeting going.
Would you recommend we draft that statement and put it into the policy?
I think it would be a good idea. And you and I talked about that.
Yeah.
Um,
We'll add that.
just so that if we do have to
It
cut
might be a
the,
one-off, but at least you have a little.
yeah,
A little cushion.
Yeah, we don't want to spend it in here.
no, well, exactly. Again, this is supposed to be our business meeting.
Right.
People should be contacting you and letting you know what their concerns are.
And you
It's
know
almost
what?
unfortunate if it waits to get to the board meeting, because now it becomes an issue and it takes us now another month before we can figure that out.
And sometimes too, it could be pretty innocent that they want to talk about it, and that just makes us more transparent if we can just hear them on the spot sometimes too. Everything doesn't have to be a crisis, you know, maybe there's just something that's, you know, they want to bring to our attention, and it's like, it just keeps it transparent and out in the open, and it's not that big. Sometimes it's not that big of a deal. I mean, that, it's a big deal, but I'm just saying we don't have to make it something that it's not.
And I don't mind giving up the 2 minutes at all, because I remember during COVID when especially when we were doing the Zoom meetings, it was just like, nope, that's 2 minutes, sorry, you're done.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't mind that at all.
Okay, are we ready to move on to item E under new business? So the agenda item is to select a committee of 3 members, including the chair, to propose the old ISD District number 2534 school board goals for the calendar year 2023. And bring that back to the next meeting with potential changes. So with the new board, I think it's worth reviewing what our board goals are for the year, and that we as a board of 7 agree to that set of goals.
Could it be a work session so everybody could weigh in on that?
We could do that as well if the board would
work
prefer to
session.
go that route.
Sorry, I just
No,
threw that out there. I
that's a good idea.
just had that idea now.
Should we put the work session then before the February meeting?
Yeah.
An hour time? Okay, so I guess we will not need a motion and action then, let's have a motion to move it and make it a work session before the February meeting, please.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Benson moves to have a work session 1 hour prior to the February meeting to discuss the district's school board goals. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
So seconded by Member Jacobs. Any discussion around that? Okay, let's vote on that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We will have a work session 1 hour prior to the February meeting to go through our goals for the year. So item F on the agenda under new business is to approve the dissolution of the cooperative agreement with Rendell County West Schools girls softball beginning with the 2023-2024 school year. So I will read the resolution, and that will be needed to submit the application for dissolution of the cooperative agreement. So member Buckle introduced the following resolution and moved for its adoption. Resolution to dissolve cooperative agreement between Rhode Island Olivia Lake Lillian ISD number 2534 and Rendell County West ISD number 2890 for softball. Whereas the Rhode Island Olivia Lake Lillian ISD number 2534 bold resolves to dissolve the cooperative agreement with Rendell County West ISD number 2890 RCW for softball at the levels governed by the Minnesota State High School League, the MSHSL, effective July 1st, 2023. whereas the cooperative will dissolve effective July 1st, 2023 upon majority affirmative decisions from the Bold and RCW school districts. All costs associated with coaching, event transportation, and officials will revert back to the respective school districts. Be it hereby resolved that the Rhode Island Olivia Lake Lillian ISD number 2534 school board elects to dissolve the cooperative agreement with Renville County West ISD number 2890 for softball at the levels governed by the Minnesota State High School League effective July 1st, 2023. The motion for the adoption of the foregoing resolution was duly seconded by member Sheehan, and upon the vote being taken thereof. The following voted in favor thereof. So we will do a roll call vote. Member Johnson,
I
member Buckle,
Aye.
member Benson,
Aye.
member Jacobs,
Aye.
member Sheehan,
Aye.
and I am also an aye on that. I need to vote on that resolution. And we have no one voting against it. Whereas said resolution was declared and passed and adopted today, January 23rd, 2023. It is hereby certified that the Rhode Island Olivia Lake Lillian ISD number 2534 adopted this resolution at this meeting held on the January 23rd, 2023. And Tracy will need to sign that as clerk. And it's done. Okay. Okay. Item G on the agenda, approve Todd Frank as a committee member for the Little Crow Telemedia. So Jim, do you want to?
Yeah, so when we were putting our committees together, I said, I don't know that it's important that we have someone on this. And then like my very next email was the Little Crow Telecommunications Network asking, who is your new representative? Todd. So he agreed to kind of step in and do this. If somebody could make a motion, he told me that he would be willing to be on that committee, the LCTN committee.
But we do need to make it formal. Okay, so Benson moved and Buckle seconded.
I will second.
Okay, I thought I heard you say something, so that's why I said that. So it's been moved and seconded to approve Chair Frank as the committee member for the Little Crow Telemedia Committee. Any discussion around that? Okay, we'll vote on it then. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. We now have a committee member for Little Crow Telemedia, so. We have one more item now that was added, and that's approval of the greenhouse fundraiser for the ag program. That's item H.
Do you want to elaborate on that, anybody?
She's, Skylar is a go-getter and she wants a greenhouse. And is looking for, I don't know, $80,000 in donations to make this happen. If anybody can, it'll be her. So she's got something she's sending out and didn't actually know she needed to get approval from the board before that, so, which is fine.
2 years probably.
So a 2 year, okay, so do this for 2 years?
She thinks it might take 2 years, and then she's gonna seek grants and other donations. in
I
addition.
got some information on that. It's
Perfect.
agriculture education funding opportunities, and here's, do you want to give that? to
Yeah, I
her?
would
She can
absolutely.
look into that.
Thank you.
Okay, so,
So this is strictly be done by donations,
Or funding.
or grant funding,
It could be grant funding.
funding our donations too.
a mixture.
Is there anything that they can involve the carpentry class to help build?
Perhaps, depending on the size and scope of the project.
Could they use some of the ESSER dollars for that?
Possibly, yeah.
Questions?
Am I getting a nod? Yeah, we can use ESSER dollars for that.
Probably.
Yeah.
I think that's spectacular.
Yeah, great idea.
Okay, I don't think we've had an official motion on the table. I don't think anyone has moved or seconded yet, so we shouldn't be discussing it until we've done that. So is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve the greenhouse fundraiser for the egg program.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded, so let's continue our discussion.
That's gonna be hard to train people. Yeah, we'll get her.
I think that's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Any further comments for or against? I haven't heard anything against, which is good. Okay, well, let's then move to approve the greenhouse fundraiser for the ag program. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We've approved the greenhouse fundraiser for the ag program.
Can I just mention this too? I was just looking, I'm gonna give this to you too, but there's a Minnesota Agriculture Education Summer Grant too. I don't know if they can work on it throughout the summer, but
Want to give that to her too?
it appropriates up to $250,000 in state funding, and priority is given to new programs for first-time applicants.
All right, thank you.
Okay,
That's why we go down to the convention.
yep, and,
Yes, it is. I mean,
and why the school, part of why the school board needs to
Participate now.
participate in,
Yes.
yeah. All right, we have completed our new business, so upcoming dates are, first thing, and Jim mentioned this, February 1st, our facilities task force meeting, which will be here in Olivia at 5 PM. Where is the actual meeting point going to be to start?
Most
that?
likely the cafeteria.
In the cafeteria, okay? And then the February 15th, 2023 Facilities Task Force meeting, that will be in Bird Island, starting at 5 PM. And where will that start at, or the meeting point be?
Most likely one of the classrooms nearest the lobby.
There's the lobby, okay?
Come in the lobby doors.
And then February 27th, we have our regular school board meetings at 7 PM. Just prior to that, at 6 PM, we'll have our work session to go over our goals as a board. And those are our upcoming dates. And then now we have our final item before adjourning is to adopt a resolution to acknowledge gifts and accept gifts, grants, and bequests. So I will read enclosure 8. If everyone's ready, Member Jacobs introduced the following resolution and moved its adoption. Whereas Ultimate Medical Incorporated has generously donated $500 to the Bold Robotics team. Whereas Farmward Cooperative has generously donated $100 to the Bold Robotics team. Whereas H&L Printing Service has generously donated $50 to the Bold Robotics team. Therefore, be it resolved by the Bold School Board to gratefully accept these gifts. The motion for adoption of the foregoing resolution was duly seconded by Member, and upon vote being taken thereon, the following voted in favor thereof. Member Johnson,
Aye.
Member Buckle,
Aye.
Member Benson,
Aye.
Member Jacobs,
Aye.
Member Sheehan.
Aye.
And the chair is also an aye. And we have no one against, as all voted in favor. The foregoing resolution was approved this 23rd day of January, 2023.
Could you clarify who seconded that motion?
Me, Ally.
Thank you.
All right, we are ready to accept the motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We have moved to adjourn at 8:08 PM on the 23rd. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. I didn't think anybody wanted to leave.